Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. At last, we have come to the end of our Andor after shows. Well, at least until 2024. I'm, of course, who am I? I'm, of course, your host, Robert Burnett.
You're nailing it.
I am joined, we have a full house today. I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues, Kris Carr and Jonathan Boyko. And Jonathan and I have been doing shows. We've been having a good time doing this. And Kris, we've also had a good time doing this.
Yeah.
And we're now at the end, so it was only fitting that the three of us get together. The three of us who have more to say on the show than who else has done after shows on Andor? Has anyone?
Probably. The internet is
You
a
mean
vast
off of
place.
this channel? I'm sure off of this channel.
I don't know.
There's an entire galaxy of channels up there. So
Listen, I have to say, I was wondering, every week John has said he's waiting for the show not to be good. And I was wondering, is it possible that the show didn't or wouldn't stick the landing?
Mm-hmm.
I was amazed at just how much they stuck the landing.
Oh, yeah.
I could not believe what I was seeing. And I think that, first and foremost, I've read some criticisms that said that, Rolling Stone said that Andor himself was sort of a bystander in his own show. And I think that was by design.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying earlier that I think the character of Andor, while we are watching him, it was us. We're the viewers. He was always watching and seeing what was going on, but we had, as viewers, had to decide to join the rebellion.
right.
And by going through what he went through, we saw what he went through, and we also came around to understanding this show, to me, for the very first time, maybe since the original Star Wars, made the Empire terrifying.
Oh,
And especially in this episode, we saw the Empire, what happens and basically, you know what? Ferrix to me was like a steel town in Pennsylvania. A lot of people
good
going to
comparison.
work and blue collar, salt of the earth folk that are trying to get by any means necessary. They're helping each other out. There's a sense of community. And then you have what would happen if a fascist regime came in. What would the good people of that town be subjected to? And we saw that. I mean, we saw the first 3 episodes of the show take place on Ferrix, and then they brought back the last 2 episodes. And I have to say, I was really amazed by it. What do you think, Kris? Am I wrong? Am I off base? What did you think of this episode?
No, I thought this was a very powerful episode. And I was one of the people who was saying on our other shows, it's interesting that Cassian doesn't take a front seat in this, but he's been our window character this whole time, right? And we are able to experience him, everything like you said, through him. But the stuff his mother did, I mean, that is the true spark of this rebellion. And I think that's the point, is that we're seeing a character who is getting that spark ignited within them and seeing how someone can go from a distaste or a disinterest in, politics and the Empire and all this to being radicalized and wanting to stand up for themselves and others and seeing the atrocities at home and making that be something that moves them forward. I feel like it stuck the landing real hard. Did a great job.
In this picture right here, she's like the good emperor.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly right. She's absolutely, if you're not getting reverse Palpatine vibes from this, you're absolutely right, Jonathan. I mean, look, there are so many, in terms of great science fiction, a lot of it, my love of Star Trek came out of the fact it was very allegorical in nature. This might be a little too on the nose, but I mean, it opens with an IUD being built by a partisan. Somebody we'd seen since the very first episode of the show, close-ups of this bomb that later comes into play being built. And I mean, I can't believe how they took basically a fantasy milieu that was derived from Flash Gordon. It was this swashbuckling whiz-bang that's been turned into something that is so relevant for the modern age. It did what great science fiction does. And I really was swept up in this show. But this particular episode, it brought literally every piece of every what do you call it? What do I want to say? Fabric. Every string in the fabric knitted back together in a great cohesive whole that brought all the characters in the forefront into play.
When we were watching, I was watching it together with Kris in the office there, and I just said the gang's all here.
Yep.
Because it wove it so perfectly that all the characters came together at the end right there, to that climax. It did follow the same pattern too. It shouldn't surprise us that the pattern leading up to the eye, it just reset the pattern.
Right.
And led up to what was the name of this episode? I'm drawing
Rick's Road.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they just followed that pattern and it works.
And in a way that's really organic too. It doesn't feel forced when everyone shows up there. It makes sense for them from a narrative standpoint, and then also for their characters too. Of, oh yeah, this is exactly the choice they all would make.
Right.
I agree, and there was so many interesting. I mean, when people talk about, well, you know, it doesn't feel like it's a part of what we've seen in Star Wars. I'm like, man, when I saw that Tidarium, whatever the class of shuttle that is,
Tidarium
I'm going to
shuttle,
call it the
yeah.
Tidarium shuttle, and then Daedra gets out of it. I'm like,
Right.
this is the Empire, the Emperor arriving or Vader arriving at the beginning of Jedi.
I told Kris, I said, nothing good ever comes out of those things.
No, ever. And I mean, it was, and the way they brought back Cyril, and the way that, I mean, there are some lingering things. Who is Cyril's uncle?
Who is Cassian's sister?
Who is Cassian's sister? Who is Luthen?
Yeah.
Is Luthen a Jedi? They weren't going to tell us.
I was going to say, that's a story though that I was like, thank God they didn't tell me in the final episode of like, and here's who I am for real.
Right. And I just watching this whole thing come together. I mean, you did have Cassian rescue Bix, and everybody that was left was able to escape. I mean, Cassian facilitated their escape. But, you know, even John was talking about watching the bell ringer kick that stormtrooper out of his high perch, out of the bell
We cheered.
tower.
We were like, yeah.
I mean, everything about this episode, I just thought really tied this show together. And it's not just, I think, one of the great Star Wars shows it is, but it really winds up in the great pantheon of science fiction television shows of all time. And I know it's so frustrating. Like we talked earlier in the show about how it harked back to Les Mis, but somebody on my Twitter feed said it also harks back to Bloody Sunday, what happened in, I think, 1971 in Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
The Boggs something massacre. And there's absolutely some of that in here as well, because the Empire might as well be the British
Empire.
you know, and I mean, there's a reason Peter Cushing ran the Death Star after all. But I mean, they did so many fascinating things in this episode. And what I really appreciated was, from a production standpoint, they built this incredible set for Ferrix that they used for 3 episodes and then brought it back for 2 more, rather than relying on the volume stages or something. They could not have shot this on a volume with the people marching through the cities. And
that was the problem with, and not to go too far into a left turn here, but the problem with Obi-Wan is they literally did have battles with stormtroopers on the volume, and you could tell physically the actors were cramped and just kind of trying to pretend to be like playing laser tag in a small room. Like, how would they miss anyone? We're literally all in the same room.
Exactly.
So this broadened that space.
Oh, and I love the fact that the stormtroopers were dead shots every time they pulled the trigger.
yeah.
Somebody got. Mm-hmm. And man, this was, I just love this whole, I love when literally our favorite mom, Andor, the brick that is her is used to take
When
out
Brazos just smacks the shit out of that guy.
I
Love that.
I got a lot of bloodlust where I was like,
right
murder
here.
them.
yeah, there you go.
Kill them with the death brick.
And also the world building, though, this whole civilization. I mean, it really did feel like you were in like, I don't know, the St. Patrick's Day parade or something, with all the Irish
And all the violence.
and all the violence.
Those are my people. I can say that.
I mean, it was just.
You know what I like about these shows, what they're doing, and well, if you bring that image back, or any of the images of the people, it's like you can kind of see them in 1977 with their hairstyles and everything. It's not like I noticed in some modern Star Wars, it has kind of like more of a modern haircut and stuff like that. But I love it. Every once in a while, they get those thick chops, and the 70s style big kind of like hair that they had, and you get that with some of these people.
No, absolutely, and it again. I hate to harp on this word because it's my favorite word, but verisimilitude of all this. I mean, you never didn't believe where you were. I mean, it was so immersive in its production values and everything. I just really love what they did here. But, you know, and at the end of the day, this was an examination, not of the Jedi, but of what does it mean to have an empire, and what are you going to do as a rebellion? There was the great, when you hear I forget the words, but when you heard our friend who died in The Eye.
Nemec.
Nemec, when his manifesto.
His manifesto came back.
Oh, it was
man,
beautiful.
did I love what was in that
And
manifesto.
I was going to say something about that. He says in there that control is unnatural, and that's why they are so full of fear. And you could, so that set that up for the acting. You could sense their fear. And like, it's just a funeral, guys. And they're just like, get closer. We're taking too much time.
Right.
They're so they think they're so strong. They're so fearful.
That was I love that. And you see that in the United States. There's so many groups of people fearing that they're losing control, that they must cede control to somebody that they fear. And in this case of us, I don't think that's really fair. But in the case of the Empire, it is. I mean, and look what happens. The Empire immediately resorts to killing people.
Well, and that it's going to get worse on that planet. Now there will be a planetary blockade.
Yes.
I loved it. Now let me ask you this. They did give us a little dollop, I thought, of fan service at the very end. They answered the question, what were they building in the prison? But what I really loved was the positioning of the Death Star and the pieces of the gun.
How it was going to...
But it's the rebel
right
symbol, you know, and I just love that they even were redolent of that. They were showing us the Andor, you know, what is that? Where did that rebel insignia come from? Because it doesn't exist now, you know, and like there it is. That's the beginning of every episode of Andor begins with the little Andor logo, and I'm like, okay, this show knows exactly what the hell it's doing.
Yeah.
And man, did I love that. I really did.
Where do you think we pick up next season? It's good. It's a while.
Well, we're gonna have a wedding. We're gonna have a child wedding.
Let's talk about that. You've got Mon Mothma only had 2 scenes this episode. One with her husband.
Powerful.
And they were powerful.
The second one, no one even speaks.
Not a word.
Now, does she look eager? The daughter looks like she's like, I'm
She's
all
into
about
it
what's the word? The tradition.
Yeah.
And, you know.
She's fully into it.
Oh yeah, she's into
Now,
it.
I'm starting to feel a little different about the husband because, you know, even when he got caught gambling or whatever, he's like, they're trying to ruin you by going after me. And he's starting to feel like, I felt like he was an insider for the Empire. And I'm starting to feel like he's starting to question that too.
Oh, I agree.
Things are happening and he's not certain about it.
See?
And even here, the look, he wasn't like, yes, do what we must. He's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, because Mon Mothma described him as being open-minded towards everything, right? In the episode before this, he's just fine. He'll go with the flow. I love though, because I took that as her setting him up with that whole gambling thing of him being like, "What the fuck are you talking about? That didn't happen," and her just being like, "Oh, don't embarrass me again."
Well, and then we saw it pay off.
Yeah.
Like, well, there's been some discrepancies with their bank account. That was all a setup.
Yeah,
It was great.
and it was done so well.
And I just want to say quickly, the other scene with Mon Mothma, I loved the shot because she's very center, very upright, buttoned up, right? She's buttoned up. Oh, great. It's right there. And there's something literally, you understand it's the same actress. But when then she takes a breath, looks to the side, opens up the collar, and the shot I'm just speaking like visually widens, and she's a different person.
Yes. Oh, I mean,
Talk about the art of a shot.
Yeah.
this show is it's so the shots in the city showing where everybody was in their perches and everything. The direction on this show's it's absolutely feature film level. I mean, everybody involved in this series should be getting Star Wars movies to make.
It just went vertical to opening of the horizontal plane in that one shot.
It was fantastic. And her Mon Mothma's outfit at that wedding, chef's kiss. How good does she look? Wow. Anyway, now should we find out what our viewers have to say about this episode?
Nah. Of course, yes. Let's hear.
We should do that.
Let's see what they have to say.
But first.
But first, do you know what? I mean, I can't say that. Why don't you go ahead and say what you're going to say?
I was just going to say, let's have a listen from our sponsor today, MeUndies.
That's it? We're not going to get some kind of joke?
No.
Oh, man.
This is the joke.
The holidays are officially upon us, and it's time to start celebrating. Do your thing and holiday your way with MeUndies. Because it's the most wonderful time of the year to try MeUndies, because they're currently offering a very merry deal. Get 20% off your first purchase with free standard shipping and free returns when you go to MeUndies.com/Campea. Guys, you know I've been wearing MeUndies for a while now because I used to be like everybody else. I would go to the big store, buy the biggest box of the most generic underwear, and I thought that was good enough. But ever since I started MeUndies and started wearing wearing the most comfortable underwear I have ever worn in my life. I swear on this Christmas season, I will never go back. So get your holiday shopping finished early and start making time for yourself with the new MeUndies holiday collection. Their undies, long underwear, and sleepwear are made out of the softest, most supple fabric you've ever felt and are guaranteed to bring you comfort and joy to all of your loved ones. Shop their classic plaid prints for a traditional, picture-perfect style, or get festive with their adventurous limited edition sweater prints. Available in sizes extra small all the way through 4XL, MeUndies has what you need to make all of your favorite people smile this holiday season, all in one convenient place. So to get 20% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/Campea.
And thanks to MeUndies for sponsoring our last Andor after show, at least until 2024. Kris, what do people have? What do people have to say for us, or to us, or with us?
From Daniel Baccara, I support you, Kris. Thank you. When it comes to Rogue One, the Battle of Scarif is awesome, but the film is unbelievably dull for a while you don't care about most of the characters. Andor enhances Cassian a lot. Okay. Well, thank you. Once again, I don't hate this movie or anything. I just didn't find it to be of the highest tiered echelon.
Hate flow through you.
I'm not a Sith and I won't do it. But I mean, I am excited to watch Rogue One now that I have finished this first season and see if it changes anything about my viewing, because now I do have a deeper connection to this character.
I just think that the one thing that the mistake that I think that Rogue One made, maybe it was for expediency's sake, is that all the team members, and I've said it before, you don't meet them. Like, we should see all the team members in their milieu so we know where they're coming from, too.
Yeah.
When you just meet them on the streets of Jeddah, it's like, who are these people?
It was like Nemec, right? We meet him for a few episodes, and I was devastated. I was devastated when that boy was murdered with his manifesto not being
well,
heard
because
by
you
others.
see him and Cassian have these conversations where they really do a good job of letting you know who that character is.
We need a little more of that.
What's next?
From Spencer Smothers, I love how Mon faked an argument over the gambling habits of her husband to cover her banking issues, knowing her driver would be listening in on.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a great scene. Now, the question I have is, was her husband in on it, do you think?
No. I don't think so. I think she's going to throw him under the bus. I don't think she likes him very much.
I don't think so either.
It's why you shouldn't marry somebody who you met when you were like 14.
Yeah, not good.
Pretty good that Luthen knew not to trust this driver, too, from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah. Don't trust anybody.
That's the rule of Andor. Don't trust or love anyone.
Anyone.
At all. Except Bix. From Alex Von Gollum, one of two. After how divisive The Last Jedi was, I thought Lucasfilm would never try to do something different in Star Wars. Andor proved I was so wrong. I'm still in utter disbelief that we would get this level of excellence in content. I'm so happy with how the season turned out.
Well, I think what's really interesting is Tony Gilroy said he wasn't a big Star Wars fan. And that what he did was the same thing that I've said this before, what Nicholas Meyer did with Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. They came in and they understood as great classical storytellers with experience under their belts that what they needed to do first and foremost was tell a great story that existed outside of the Star Wars universe. And I'm
Moby Dick.
Absolutely. Moby Dick. This also had however many partisan stories, and Les Mis, or maybe what happened in 71, Bloody Sunday in Ireland. They took these things because the central question of this show that had never been answered really in Star Wars is, why fear an empire? What is it about the empire that needs them to be vanquished? And I think that this show does a marvelous job of that. And it shows where the rebellion came from. And people are asking me like, well, this didn't feel like Star Wars to me. And I'm like, but didn't you ever wonder? This is literally a show about the opposing sides in the Star Wars universe that we meet later after they're fully formed and their conflict is already raging. So,
I mean, the same could be said about Rebels. It's just that you also had Kanan in there with a lightsaber.
right.
If you took Kanan out of that and Ezra, you took the Force portion out of that, it would be this. And then people are like, well, I don't get it. It's like, where did you think the legions of where do you think the Rebel Navy came from? They didn't just form a Navy.
Right. A bunch. Hey, it's tired of the Empire. Bring your ships.
Yeah, we have capital ships with arms. Great, let's do this.
Yeah.
Like,
How'd they finance those? Where'd they come from? Where'd that medical frigate with 21B on it come from?
And actually, in his manifesto, he said there's already brigades formed. They just don't realize it yet.
Right. Which I loved. And that's why I think this show is great, because as I've said, if you want to make a great franchise, if you want to make a great IP entry, forget the IP. Come up with a great story, a universal story that will work outside the IP, and then you can weave the IP into it. And they did such a wonderful job of that with this.
From Daniel Vacara, the ending reminded me of House of the Dragon, with it being a bit sudden, but it felt like more closure with where Cassian is going compared to just that final shot of Rhaenyra, where that felt more incomplete to me.
Plus, at the end, it was like dun 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 dun, and I was really confused. But yeah.
Well, I also think though that this whole episode was the ending, and the little tag with Luthen and Cassian. I mean, they could have played that moment out. Like he could have said, "Kill me," and Cassian could have walked right up to him and put the gun to his forehead, and it would have seemed more epic. But they didn't.
But we know what happens to him.
Yeah.
So that's why when you have Luthen smile and then Cassian kind of sigh relief, you're like, yeah, because you don't die. We know that. But you're going on another adventure with Luthen.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I thought it worked. I liked it.
I have a question for you guys.
Yes.
Where do you think season 2 is going to pick up? Do you think it's going to be immediately after what we just saw, or do you think there will be a time jump?
Time jump.
Time jump. And the Empire will now have the more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the grip will be tight. It will be tight.
Yeah.
The iron fist of the Empire will be everywhere in the next season.
From Nathaniel, as a man, I want my boy Cyril to get his girl Deirdre, but as a decent human being, I don't want to see his creepy stalker actions get rewarded. I'm torn.
She seems torn too.
I mean, yeah, that.
But he did save her life.
Yes.
And she would, again, what I would have not expected, she was terrified. She became, in that moment, all vestiges of the Empire fell away, and they humanized Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, basically.
Yeah.
And they humanized her. She's just a person. And knowing that, I mean, it's even more heartbreaking in the sense that when people are getting killed from both sides, they're both human beings or aliens or whoever.
Yeah.
You know, it was really tragic. I actually felt bad for her in that scene. How scared she was.
I almost wonder if she was more frightened that her guard was forced down now in front of somebody.
Could be.
Then I mean, obviously because her life, but now she's looking at him like, I had to drop my guard to you, and I've never done that for anyone.
Well, now they have a secret.
Yeah.
They have something they can build on.
For sure. And I also, in this particular instance, I don't think this was him being stalkery. He was there on his own accord.
He was
to
there
find
for Andor.
Cassian. Yeah. And then happened to see her and had the moment of, you were in trouble, which this moment too really just subverts how you feel about these two characters of, well, she's a horrible human being and he's this awful creep. And then in that moment, you're like, oh, she's so scared and she needs him. And he's being very brave and sweet to her right now. I wanted them to make out so bad.
In the midst of a firefight.
I have a question I wanted to bring up before the chat, and maybe they'll talk about it in the chat. But it's talking about Cyril and his buddy. Am I crazy to think there was a bit of a split in philosophy suddenly when he was having a drink and Cyril is still on board?
I think so.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I didn't think the Empire was going to do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
We might have a turn in that character.
I think so too.
Anyway.
I would love that. From Daniel Vacker again, Mon Mothma playing 4D chess and implicating her husband to the spy to explain the financial issue was incredible. Marva's speech was fantastic, where it felt earned as the revolution starts.
Well, what I love about her is she's given up everything she had. Any semblance of her own life or the things she cared about or loved, or she gave up. She gave up her husband and she gave up her daughter. She cut all ties in this episode because she knows she's got to get the hell out.
From Zach Marcello, the amount of emotion this show has made me feel, especially when comparing to all the BS going on in the real world, is stunning. Real life complexity.
I totally agree. I mean, that's one of the great things I love about this show. And maybe that's why a lot of people aren't responding to it, because there's not a lot of escapism in it.
Yeah.
It is really hard hitting, and there's a lot of things going on in the world right now that are very mirrored by this show.
You know, we talked about how it'd be in Disney's best interest to drop all of the episodes, basically, except the finale on Hulu.
Right.
But I don't know if I could binge this.
I was actually just thinking, I'm definitely binging this. I'm going to give it a rest a little bit, but I'm going to go back now and watch it
The whole thing.
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, it's just a little too intense that I think if I sat down and watched it fresh for the first time, like 11 episodes, I'd need to take a couple laps.
Well, it's amazing how many, first of all, how many planets we went to. We talked about all these. We went. I mean, we really saw more of the Star Wars universe in this than we've really
There were
ever
so
seen.
many stars in just like one war.
It's true.
It's great.
I loved it. I want to go back to space Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
So would it be Stars War?
Stars War. Which is sad music. Zach Larson. I loved Mara's speech. You could really feel the emotion and the effects the oppression had on Ferrix. Gave me chills when the town fought back.
So good.
She went from reflective to loving or empathetic to rise up against these bastards. Just angry.
I just love the fact that if we're close to having this technology, I was like, I can't wait to record my death video.
That's the thought you had while watching
I
this?
did. I'm like, I can't. I better make it good. Short and sweet.
Because you're one bun in the grave?
Could be. I'm like, I look forward to that. And then they had to, like, somebody came and tried to squelch her. I'm like, that's just like a man trying to turn off a woman even in death.
Still failed to, though, too. Putting his cape over it like a little bitch.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, here's the whole thing. Let me do half of it. Let's hurry, shoot them.
I wanted that guy to get pummeled so badly. Oh,
Weasel.
did not like him. Christina B. Dear Disney Plus, this is how you structure a proper TV show. Tony Gilroy did a great job telling a cohesive story and expanding on the Star Wars universe.
Oh, I totally agree. There's more world building in this. I mean, I want to read I hope they make the Andor visual dictionary and go through all this stuff and go into all the planets and explain all the background because they did a hell of a job. More so than we've seen in a long
For
time.
someone who wasn't big on Star Wars,
Right.
sure was a lot of Star Wars.
I mean, even in the background when the Tidarium shuttle landed next to it, it was like, oh, it's that thing.
that
you know?
it was like that carrier Tidarian shuttle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, and I know, like, I get it. Like, he's the writer or director. Like, there's still teams that do the art. But did you notice the ship that Cassian left his group on and they took off in?
Oh, with the Y-wing engines?
Y-wing engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's had the Y. It's like, see, it's the same manufacturer. They do that a lot on this show.
I know, and it's great.
They did it for something else, and I was like, oh, I bet you it's the same manufacturer as like this because it looks. Oh, Luthen's ship looks like it's from the same company that makes TIE fighters.
Yeah, or the blockade runner. We talked, TIE fighters, but also the cockpit's kind of Corellian.
It couldn't even be Corellian.
Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Man, do I want a model of that? A big model of that. I hope they make it. If they make a toy of that, hopefully a Black Series.
I was gonna say Black Series.
It would be huge, though. I want it.
Probably like $220.
Yeah. Come on, HasLabs, get on that. I want a Black Series Luthen's ship.
Make
Yeah,
it
we'll
so.
put it right there
Yeah,
next to the Batmobile.
yeah. When that comes, it's
From-
coming.
From Bert, Belvins is back in the fold. He's being fed exaggerated intel about Perrin's alleged resurfaced gambling habits. Brilliant move by Mon Mothma.
Yep. I mean, I love that.
It was a cool move.
It was a good move.
Good stuff.
Love it.
From Cody Hunt, our Lord and Savior Tony Gilroy. We're not worthy.
You probably aren't.
Probably not. Oh, there he is. That's who you're praying to, bud. Good
I am
job,
praying to
Tony.
that guy. He's a badass and an Academy Award winner.
From Bert, why did Cyril and his friend exchange hats?
That's a good question.
Maybe one fit their head better than the other.
Because it was cute.
I don't
It was
know.
a
Maybe
cute
when they were
moment.
separated or something, they had different hats and they did that. At first, I thought there was like a message in each one.
I
And they
did
were
too,
handing
and I
off a
was
message,
thinking
but-
that one is an actual military hat, and they just mixed them up or something.
Yeah.
Well, was it to help him blend in so people wouldn't recognize him?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I thought it was just a precious moment.
See, he's got that 77 Star Wars hair.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They also swapped socks.
And by the way, even this, we got to see what public transportation looks like in the Star Wars universe. A little bus. I like that. Space bus. Airbus.
From Alex Von Gollum, Marva's procession reminded me of the religious march in Godfather Part 2.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And even part 1 as well. I mean, when they're in Sicily.
What felt like
But in Godfather Part 2, the procession when was it Paolo's in the wood, but at the beginning when the kid that was the son that was killed by
right. He was shot.
Don Cheech.
Yeah. I guess the musical nerd in me was like in Oliver when he's the pallbearer, in the streets.
Yes. Oh, I can see that. I definitely got those Les Mis kind of references too
Yeah.
that y'all were talking about earlier today.
Yeah, totally.
Which was lovely. From Ryan Launer, Jyn is the daughter of the Death Star's architect, and Cassian actually built part of it, and they'll both die taking it down. And that's tragedy.
He doesn't know where those parts went, though.
Nope.
But
He probably never will.
and then I was looking at that thing at the end. I'm like, Obi-Wan and Han Solo are gonna be in there, and then they're gonna get the princess, and they're gonna blow it up. Said it just like that too.
Just in that voice. From Cody Hunt, Marva became weak clearing the tunnels for the rebellion, which would be the same ones Cassian used in this episode. Man, this show is so well written.
Yep. I mean, there's nothing left to chance. Every single thing. I mean, in terms of top-notch writing, all of this, the way they brought it all back home. I mean, also I was talking about from a production standpoint, you know, that set, the Ferric set with that exterior was probably a build. And they spent, when they amortized the cost over 12 episodes or whatever, you can spend a lot of money building that set because they used it in 5 of those episodes, and we were all the better for it. Because that's what, I mean, I can't stress enough how much I think that helped this show. Shooting at that dam, these real locations, it's way better for the look of the show. Whereas you pointed out, like, that scene with the attack with the stormtroopers and Obi-Wan Kenobi was lame.
right.
So much of that show was lame.
Yeah.
And I also don't think they didn't have the writing. As much as I like Deborah Chow, she wasn't up to the directing task.
Well, and then even budgetary, they're going to use the same structure and just change the facade
Right.
on that set.
Yeah, absolutely.
From Cody Hunt, what I really like about this episode is the economy of storytelling. Would we have liked to see Krieger battle? Yes. Did we need it? No. Yeah, we were surprised that they didn't show that because it just seemed like you were going to see that moment.
You literally could have missed it. If you'd
Yeah.
gotten up to get a drink, you would have missed that scene where they're like, oh, they're maybe that's one criticism I had. You didn't have to see it, but a little more than just some red dots on a screen that's in the distance and the leader of their Secret Service saying, oh, yes, they fell right into our trap.
Right.
It was sort of like,
I would have loved to hear like some comms with
Yeah.
the battle.
Yeah.
I think
That's
that would have
true.
been fun.
Yeah, I mean, but we already,
but even that wasn't a huge deal. You just
Yeah.
had to know that, okay, that happened.
because it was a callback to what the previous episode or what
Yeah.
was with the Saw Gerrera
Yeah,
conversation.
where he's just like, you know, I'm lighting a fire, you know, that his sacrifice, like this 30, 50, whatever it is,
I think the problem with that was we hadn't met that guy before.
and we never saw him again.
We never saw him,
Yeah.
so yeah.
From Christina B, who's a more badass boss lady, Mon Mothma or Mira? I mean, Merva?
Well, Mothma
Merva?
will grow into it, but she's unsure of herself right now.
Yeah.
She's still in a place where I think she thinks she can still remain a senator and keep doing this.
Right.
And there's going to be a turn where she's like, I've got to get on a capital ship and fight.
Get the fuck out of here.
But I think Mon Mothma's in the middle of it all. Like at any one moment, she's literally in the hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas being on Ferrix wasn't exactly that.
No,
No.
So, although Mira went out into the world and did stuff. That's
Yeah.
what I was
She's a
like,
bamf.
So at some point, we'll see Mon similarly, like rallying troops.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
From Cody Hunt, the music of the Andor logo is the same music played at the funeral. It's built up instrument by instrument each episode. Man, that's some great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, it can't be stressed enough that if you didn't like, I think we were talking about it early on because I had noticed that the opening Andor logo, the music was different. There was a progression made, and leading up to this, I mean, my God, it was so well done.
I just love that flutes are. Damn it, Taylor. I love that flutes are canon in Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
That makes me really happy. It's great.
wind instruments a big part of the Star Wars universe. Well, I mean, to be fair, we did see wind instruments with
the Max
Oh, in the
Rebo band.
march?
yeah.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, you know, and Phil down in the modal nodes who are playing in the cantina.
Dun, 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 dun.
Size noodles.
Yeah,
Moving on.
she's just a vocalist. She can't play anything.
From Zach Marcello. Curious if we could get a Star Wars top 5, if not today, then on the John Campea Show soon. Mine, Empire, Andor, A New Hope, Rogue One, Return of the Jedi. Ooh. I mean, yeah, Empire would
a
be
good
top
one.
for me. Mandalorian, because I like Mandalorian still more than this so far.
So I would have to put Star Wars at my number one only because it started it all.
Oh, that's true.
And I mean the Star Wars, not Star Wars A New Hope.
And you saw
Star
it in
Wars-
theaters, which was,
I
I'm
saw it
sure,
in theaters.
magical.
It was amazing.
My sister saw it 11 times in theaters.
Oh my gosh.
It was many times for me too.
Mm-hmm.
But not as many as Empire. It's 26. I've said that a million times.
Wow.
But I said Empire Strikes Back 26 times in a theater. At the same theater, in the same seat.
If someone was in your seat, were you like, get the fuck out?
Well, no, because what I had to do is I had to get there when we would go on the weekends first. So I'd get there first. I was always first in line with my friends because I didn't want to deal with that. Give me my seat.
You wouldn't be able to do that now. And I just mean that there's too much content out there and too much for the mind's eye to like, you wouldn't give up 26 viewings to go to the theater to do that now.
No, I would. That's true. I wouldn't have. And plus, they'd have reserved seats. By the way, the theater that I saw it in, one of my favorite movie theaters of all time, they reduced it to rubble. The UA 150.
The Empire came in. And
they did on the
Those
corner of 6th and
bastards.
Blanchard in Seattle, right across from the King Cinema, right around the corner from the Cinerama that's also closed now.
It suffered the same fate as
You know, if you
Scoochie's.
have enough money in Seattle, they'd move the Space Needle to Bellevue. Just saying. People are like, what? Never mind.
Bellevue. Sam Fisher. I'm so glad I looked for an end scene credit for Andor, but I wish Andor season 2 was more like season 1, covering 4 BBY, and it got a season 3 through 5 covering 3 through 1 BBY.
That's before the Battle of Yavin.
Oh, thank you. I was not understanding what that acronym was.
Before the Battle of Yavin.
They've actually used
Thank you for
BBY in the
clarifying
show.
the accent.
You know, we saw that at the beginning of the show where this was set. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to be much more, it's going to go faster. You know, every 3 episodes is going to be a year. That's how they set it up. But I think that's okay. You know, that way we'll get, I think the confined storytelling, they'll tell us if they keep, it'll be a tight 3 episode.
Take 3.
Tight like a-
Yay!
Tight 3.
Tight like a tiger.
Yeah. That's right.
From Alex Von Gollum. My heart continues to break for Mon. The look on her face when the father and son arrived told us everything she was feeling. Genevieve did a great job.
Man, I'd give that woman an Emmy. She won't get it, but she's great.
She's incredible on this. She's
Incredible.
so powerful. And just, the little physical things she does in scenes are just so good.
so good.
I wonder if there's going to be room for theatrical releases of this era, more like, and she's playing Mon in that. I could see that.
She's great. Yeah.
From Alex Von Gollum. Andor's adoptive dad and Marva's speeches were masterfully written. Remember this. I love him more than he could ever do wrong. Just
It
mesmerizing.
was so great.
That was the moment, and you see that on Andor's face. That was the moment that gave him the go ahead
Yeah.
to be who he had been suppressing.
Absolutely.
People have had those moments in their life where they want to move on with something and they don't know if they have the courage to do it, and then someone gives them that permission. Be
100%.
that person you are, and that was that moment.
Amazing.
And I also love that flashback. It took me a second. I didn't realize he had his hand on his death stone. I forget what they call them exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that. Also, kudos to that actor playing Brazos who delivers Merva's final words to him too, because another actor could have just really hammed that up and made a meal out of it.
Yes.
And just that little pause of she said, collects himself and says she loved you more than anything you could do wrong. Like that was delivered so well. Oh,
And I like that he didn't say, she said this. He literally said, tell him, tell him, as if he was like a recorder.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
that was really well done.
good.
Ugh. Jay Master, can we all just agree that B2 Emo deserves an Emmy Award next year? Yes. Also, John, not now. Andor is over. Now that Andor is over, would you say that Andor is your number 1 show over House of the Dragon? Willow next week on Wednesday.
We'll have to
Well,
ask
John's
him
not here. But
I mean, the thing is, I think those 2 shows are really totally different shows. I think they both show how science fiction, fantasy, genre programming, how great it can be.
I just think that's also why does it really, you don't have to say this is my number 1 show.
yeah.
There's really, I got to tell you guys, there's no law in the world that says this has to be your number 1 and this is your number. So you got to make that hard decision. You can just like them both equally.
It's very true.
I give you permission.
Aw.
I mean, I just think it's fantastic that we got these shows this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that we have people working at this creative level, especially for genres that are traditionally they don't usually get their due.
Well, and are not seen as highbrow.
Right.
Or should I say, you can love those shows more than they could ever do wrong.
Oh.
I wish I could say that about Star Trek Discovery.
It's not true love then, Rob. All right, from Yatter Pred. Could solo characters be in season 2 Andor? God, I hope they aren't.
Yeah, I don't want to see anybody else that we know. You know, unless it may. Look, I'd love to see Palpatine address the
That
Senate
makes sense.
because he is the de facto. He's the presence that we don't feel because he's everywhere. The Empire is everywhere.
Yeah.
It wouldn't bother me to see Ian McDermott play the Emperor, but I don't want to see any other character.
I don't want to see young Han while he's a recruit. I don't really want to see Lando. Well, if it was Donald Glover, that would be different. But I mean, I just don't want to be like, oh, and then we're going to go see like little baby Leia over here, and oh, look at what this person was doing. I don't care.
There are some characters in the structure of the not the Empire. The Empire, sure. The structure of the rebellion leadership roles.
Yes,
that
that
would
makes
make sense.
sense.
You're going to see that.
I would like to see Admiral
Yes.
Akbar.
A man.
But you're not going to be like, hey, we actually met Han Solo before 77.
Right.
Well, I mean, I get Solo, but I'm just saying in Andor.
Yeah.
No, I would like to see these new characters, people that we haven't met before.
Yeah.
My problem is that in a way it feels like those people are almost from a different universe. They're from the swashbuckling Flash Gordon Star Wars part of town. I'd much rather see the criminal elements of the rebellion, and the Empire. I'd rather see.
We've
universe
seen
is
the
a-
shiny heroes who get shiny medals.
Yes,
These are the people who don't.
again and again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the people that no history book's going to write about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's.
I like it that way. Plus, Tony Gilroy has said he doesn't want to do any fan service in this.
Yeah, no.
So I think that's what that would be. For Gabriel, double feature today, Bones and All and Devotion. Then Glass tomorrow. Good week.
Yes,
Ooh,
indeed.
those are going to be fun. Taylor went and saw Bones and All.
Yeah, it was good. It was a fun time. Just
It
careful
was-
with that
it was-
one scene with the finger. That's the only thing
I was going to say it was gory
Oof.
for you, which makes me know that I'll never see this film ever.
I never have to close my eyes, and I had to look away for that scene.
Ugh.
But it's good. It's good.
Have fun. CJ Rebirth. So both Cass and Jin's dad helped make the Death Star.
Yeah, but you know what? To be fair, half the galaxy probably helped build the
Exactly.
Death Star over the course of
It's called slavery, man.
It is called slavery.
Chewbacca's like enslaved family probably helped in some way, and and made all those 25,000 Star Destroyers and everything else.
Yep.
From the man with the master plan. Overall, season 1 is near perfect. The ending was a bit abrupt, but the funeral was tense as heck. And Merva's speech was so great.
It was. I didn't feel that the end was abrupt because the whole episode was the end.
Yeah.
You know, it was this long.
I didn't feel it was like I was waiting for it to be like, oh, this is gonna be like an end of an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you caught up with Luthen, it felt like sort of an almost like that would have been the post credit scene.
It
That
felt like an
could've been.
epilogue.
Yeah.
But I mean, because there were other episodes of this season that did the show end and you went, oh,
Right.
I guess
exactly.
we're done today. And I didn't get that from this one.
No,
But that's
I didn't either.
personally.
It just didn't end on some big musical note. It was what would you call it? A smaller, a less loud.
We decrescendoed.
Yes, there you go. That's exactly
That
right.
one,
Mm-hmm.
what she said.
Yep.
Decrescendo.
Crescendo.
Smart. Harv's K, only anecdotal, but I informed a few of my friends today that Andor season finale dropped. They did not know the show had continued past episode 6 and had stopped watching. I blame Disney Plus. I was one of those people. I wouldn't have known unless I had to do shows with Rob.
I had friends who did tell me, "Oh yeah, the season was good."
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And they didn't know. They're so used to that Disney
Right.
Plus 6 episode.
After the eye, I was like, well, we're done. Cool. I don't know what we're going to do on Wednesdays now.
We had 6 more weeks of fun.
I know.
Well, I'll tell you what.
What?
Once what's it called? The Last of Us starts on Sundays. We're gonna have to do that Mondays, and it's kind of good that Andor isn't on. You know, because we're gonna need to move Weekly Hero
Weekly Hero?
probably to Wednesdays.
Ooh.
Oh, well.
So we'll still have fun.
Yeah. So many shows. Yay. From Jonathan Bunch, sending in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Jonathan. That's so nice. Cyril and Deidre are gonna bang so hard. This show is such a win all the way around. They are gonna bang so
Cyril's
hard.
such a douche. That
Look-
guy is a douche canoe.
Can I just make a request? I don't want to see that section.
I don't either.
at all.
I mean,
No.
I feel like maybe if Deidre gets laid, things are gonna change a little bit. I don't know. Maybe same for Cyril. Usually people who are having sex are a little more pleasant.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I want her to have good sex. Cyril is not the guy that's going to
I
bring
don't
that
know.
to her.
Maybe he'll like brush her hair afterwards.
Cereal
way.
after.
They will have cereal after. That'll be nice. All right. And then his mother's going to be like, who's this whore
Can
in
I
my
just
house?
say that I'm so glad that Emo did not get blasted? I was like, are they going to shoot him while he's on the ground?
I
looking
know.
Like, kill that thing too. I'm so glad.
And even the little moments where you see somebody rescuing B2 out of there, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
I love B2 Emo.
Rescue B2 Emo.
From David Ullman, Marfa's speech felt very poignant. It would be pretty cool if Ezra's speech in Star Wars Rebels was kind of happening at the same time. Also, love the post-credit scene of the Death Star.
Oh, it was great. By the way, Rayora has a message for
Yeah, I
us.
know. I'm trying to be
And,
professional.
You're allowed to.
No, that's fine. Jeez.
We don't want people knowing it, you know?
No, that's part of the
Although
mystery.
I would say that was probably the most fan servicey part of the show was that after credit.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
it was.
for sure.
Yeah.
It absolutely did. It's
Yeah.
like, you want to know what was being built in the prison?
It's like, fine, you want to know? Fine, here's your stupid
Yeah.
fan service.
And it's exactly what you already knew it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you happy?
Although I will
happy.
say this, I really kind of loved whoever designed that, the shout out to the Webb telescope, the James Webb telescope with the gold mirrors reflecting, and they kind of show that. I was like, oh, you guys are the best. You Lucasfilm designers, you know what's up. Little James Webb telescope homage.
So that's
Loved
what
it.
that is.
Telling you, yeah, right. That's what, I'm like, the James Webb telescope is a precursor for the Death Star. That's what. It's not really a telescope. It's actually a terrible weapon.
Oh, no.
It's being tested.
Careful, because there are some people out there that will believe that.
I know it's true. Well, they already do.
You'll be the next congressman.
Oh, no. Everything about those sentences was scary.
And true.
The man with the master plan. What a finale. Deidre and Cyril's scene today was the start of some boom chicka pow wow.
I'm so happy that you had to read that.
Me too.
Where's Amy? I had to use my human mouth to say that.
Yeah.
Don't start. No.
Aw. We love you, Amy. From Lewis Cook sending in a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Lewis. I just wanted to thank you for all these wonderful after shows. Watching Andor has been such a marvelous experience, but coming here after each episode to listen to everyone's insightful breakdowns has been the icing on the cake. We're insightful.
Giggle Ray.
Yeah, Ray, come on, Lewis.
no.
Thank you very much for that. Thanks very much for the support,
That
Lewis.
is very sweet of you, and thank you for believing in us more than our friend and coworker does.
Yes,
We say
apparently.
stuff like verisimilitude
Yeah.
and
De crescendo.
De crescendo.
That's a
and
music thing. I figured you'd know that.
I'm just
Oh.
hanging it up.
Oh, okay.
It's good.
It was a bit, but yes.
You committed really well.
I like self-deprecating humor.
I do too.
From Sam Fisher, I don't think I've ever been more tense at a funeral.
No, and it was great. The way it built, the scene just built and built and built and built. It was great. And I was really tense when he rescued Bix.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Why?
like,
She was so messed up. She's like, and she even told him like, it actually made me mad. Mad. What was that? It actually made me mad when she said, "Don't be mad, leave me."
Yeah.
Like she set him up because she knew he would be mad.
I know.
And she's like, "Don't be mad,
mad.
but leave me." And I'm like, "Oh no, I am mad. You're
But
coming with me."
it was good. It was good to see her at least have a smile on her face when they rescued her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get her out of there.
She just had those screaming aliens in her head. So
Yes.
they had to scramble her.
How do you guys still feel about not hearing those alien screams? Do you still think it's
mean,
good, or do you
I
wish
think
you
it's
heard
good
them?
because honestly, they wouldn't have come up with something where.
Yeah, there's no
someone out
sound
there
that we
would've
would have
wasn't that bad. I mean, I listened to that on my way to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Leaving it to your imagination is worse.
Okay. I was just curious.
I was going to pull up some funny images of
But don't.
funerals from movies, but I have to be really careful because some of these are real funerals and some of these are not real funerals. So
Yeah,
I'm
don't
just
do
not
that.
going to do it.
What a lovely, lovely minefield you just walked into. From Greggy Gilgan, that post-credit scene, that post-credit shot fixes a Return of the Jedi issue. Since the Death Star is constructed in space by droids, the rebels did not kill innocent contractors.
Well, I mean, come on. It's a.
You needed droids to assemble that stuff out there. Can you imagine a bunch of people like tethered? Like I'm just trying to clumsily do this as I float. This is me floating in space.
I think it's a combination of people.
Yeah, there were
And
definitely people working
and you know from certain, I mean, canonical novels that the Geonosians started building this. I know they're flying grasshopper creatures, but they're still sentient
Yeah.
aliens.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's it that loaded. I'm just going through really quick to see if there's any that did not load so I can read them for you guys.
Okay, awesome.
So if in the meantime you guys want to talk
Final
about...
thoughts?
Yeah,
Or
do you guys
Gauntlet.
have any final look, I would say here's what I love the most about this show. It shows that many different stories can work within the Star Wars framework.
Absolutely.
And I think that one of the things that fans get tripped up on is that they only want one kind of story within their IP. Just show me the same thing over and over and over again. And when people ask me, I'm going to start telling them that look, this is not a story about any of the people that you know. This is a story that has to deal with what happens when oppression reaches your neighborhood. You know, what happens if suddenly jackbooted thugs walked into your neighborhood and said, you can't go to the grocery store anymore when you want to.
You have a
when you're-
curfew now.
And why is democracy important? Why is our way of life worth preserving? Andor is a perfect example of what happens when you don't, when you're not ever vigilant to protect your democracy.
That was really well said, Rob.
Like that?
Shit.
But there's nothing wrong with that kind of story being told within a Star Wars context.
Exactly.
And it makes the whole IP, I think, more valuable as a storytelling medium.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't just have to have Mandalorians or Jedi in your Star Wars for it to be interesting.
Well, and even those were things where it was a little outside of the typical playbook that we'd seen, right? Mandalorian did some really cool stuff, really focusing in on those Kurosawa kind of vibes.
Yep.
And we've seen it with Visions. We've seen them do some other little like one-off kind of things. So to have a whole season of a show really, really commit to playing in a different version of the world is really fun to see.
Really fun to see. And showing us a version of a Star Wars world, or many versions that we'd never seen before.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, lest we forget, this first episode basically started out in a brothel.
That's true.
We've come so far.
Aw.
Anything else?
Just this.
Aw,
Okay, there
that's
you
cute. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, y'all. We really appreciate you guys
Get
tuning
that
in.
poser droid off the... Come on, man. Give
like
me some
BB-8.
R2-D2. R2-D2...
Kino!
R2-D2 got sacrificed at the altar of that ridiculous poser droid BB-8.
I'm very sorry.
Sorry, this is better.
That's- Tell us more about the droids you hate.
Well, no, you don't put a tarp over R2-D2, the hero of 6 previous movies, the hero, arguably the hero of the Death Star battle, the man who saved Queen Amidala by fixing her starship in Phantom Menace. R2-D2 is the man and got replaced by that poser BB-8.
That little shit.
Sorry, bro. I love BB-8.
You would.
You tripping. Both. Why can't we like both droids?
You can't, because one is a poser and one is the real
See?
deal.
You can't. 'Cause
You can't. Okay, Rob.
I'm gatekeeping, Ray.
Okay, Rab.
I am gatekeeping. I'm preventing you from your love of BB-8. Oh, and then he has
And
to throw
then-
up. Is that to invalidate my argument?
No, that's just Sai because I haven't
I
brought her
just
up all
realized
day.
that maybe I'm wrong about the whole Rebel insignia, that it's Cy Snoodle's snoot that is part of the logo.
What?
That's part of the Rebel
did you-
That's a
Rebel
heck of a tongue
logo.
twister. It's a nice noodle soup. All right. Well,
You want to close this out, or you want Chris
You
to
know
run
what?
the rest of
I
the show?
guess, I guess that would we're good, Taylor.
All good.
Well, I want to thank my esteemed colleagues, Chris. Chris, where can people find you online?
you can find me at actor Kris Carr on both Twitter and Instagram. Well, Twitter, we'll see how that goes. And you can also follow my studio, Speak Friend Studio, if you are interested in voiceover.
Jonathan, where can people find you?
You can find me in the same locations at Sonic if you want it.
And I'm, of course, your host on this show, Robert Burnett. You can find me on Instagram at RM Burnett. Find me on Twitter at Burnett RM. Find me on, what is it called? Mastodon?
Are you
As
on there?
RM Burnett. Yeah, on like
Oh.
some French server because I wanted to go for the Resistance server. And then, of course, find me on my own YouTube channel, Post Geek Singularity.
Yay. Have a happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Thanks for being here.
And thanks for joining us for the Andor after shows. Oh, I guess we're going to see you back here in 2024.
And then we're going to do a post-credit scene of Ray. Anything to say?
Chandor. No, go. Hey.